Something else I don't talk about often, but should, is that the people that invoke the property clause of why moderators get to do what they do, they completely ignore the fact that even without the government directly intervening in property, which they do, so that's not an excuse anyway, there's still the fallback of even so, even when government isn't there to regulate you, there are internal regulations in private matters, in private institutions. If you own a house, for example, it's not simply your county or state or federal government that tells you how to mandate the property, what to do with it, things like that. There's also the people around you. If you happen to live in a more populated province, for example, you may notice that sometimes they don't like it when you don't mow your yard or you paint the house a very ugly color by the standards they think an ugly color is. So basically, even when you own the property, it does not guarantee you anything. You do not have rights within your property because the people around you can argue that because you're exercising your freedoms in a way that is bad for them in case they want to sell their home, you're bringing the rate of property around you down. They want to argue that because your house is shitty, that it brings all the other houses around you down to a shittier level. Maybe not as shitty as yours, but the fact is nobody wants to live next to a house that's hot pink. Nobody wants to live next to a house that doesn't mow its yard and there's rats and shit like that. So, no, even when you own property, you don't have this intrinsic value. You don't have this objective right to do what you want on said property. So, if owning property does not guarantee you rights to anything, why in the fuck do you constantly bring it up? Why do you bring it up as though it is my obligation to own property when I know full well it doesn't guarantee anything? I'm not a fucking child. I know how the world is. I know if I buy a home that there are certain standards I'm going to have to live up to in order to maintain my property, or the people around me will literally conspire against me to have me lose the home that I paid for. So, since we know this to be true, why in the fuck are you telling me that in order to have rights, I need to have property, when I know that's not the case? So, basically what you're just saying is you have no rights, and that by owning property, it's not so much you have those rights now because of the property, so much as you are now in a privileged position to take away other people's rights even more so. In other words, you do not base your society on how many rights you have. You base your society on how much force you can apply to other people, how many rights you can take away from other people, as opposed to how many rights you have initially or have rights that are legally protected by the law. That is Western society. Western society is built on a privileged class system where people up here get to take away rights from people down here. And the best that Western folk can argue for is that, well, if you work hard enough, you'll be around here. And while you'll still get your rights taken away from people up here, you get the privilege of taking away the rights from people down here. That's the argument you're making. You're not making the argument that somehow property ownership gives you rights. You are not arguing the position that it is the duty of the government to protect your rights. You are not even arguing the philosophical position that as a human being you have rights. You are only suggesting that people that talk anything of rights should just shut up, go back to work, and strive to get somewhere around this middle area so that they can take away rights from those below them. That is not only sociopathic, that is fucking ridiculous and insane. It does not guarantee my rights any more than the position I am in right now. There is no objective difference between me owning property and me not owning property. Only for the few elite that actually own the means of production and resources does it make a difference, because they have leverage. There is a difference between having ownership and having leverage. A lot of people own something. They own property. They own cars. They own maybe even a small business. But this does not necessarily mean they have leverage. While they may have a little bit teeny more leverage than obviously the people below them, it is not enough to make a significant difference. The fact is, only about 1% of the population, hence the term the 1%, has any kind of political leverage because of the vast amount of resources and land that they own. Mostly for people, just owning property gives them a license to be a dick. And is that really the kind of world we want to live in? Where we strive and we struggle and we dig at the dirt and we work hard all our lives just for that pretty little license to be a dick? Or maybe, just maybe, we could work just as hard, maybe not even have to work as hard, maybe even work half as hard, so that we can all strive to be free. We can be a free community. We can be a free country. We can be a free world. Because we all realize that as human beings, we are smart enough to have rights. We are capable of thinking for ourselves and taking care of ourselves. And we should work together and cooperate with the means of production, not to own it, but to use it collectively. And we use it to make our lives better. We use the land so that we can build homes, so that we're not out on the fucking street in the cold or blistering heat or whatever weather conditions you live under. We use the resources so that people have clean water and plumbing and electricity and blah, blah, blah. We use the resources so that everybody can have instead of have not. We use the resources so that people can be more free, not less. We don't use the resources against people. We use them for the people, by the people, represented of the people. But that concept is lost to pro-moderators, whether they be actual moderators or just moderator sycophants like Mark Anthony. So I just figured that's something I needed to point out because I don't think people are quite understanding it. I guess that's it for now.